All right, good morning and welcome to Wayfinder, a digital curriculum for screen reader instruction. I'm Andrea Wallace and I will be facilitating this webinar today. And Cody LaPlante, the owner of IT, will be providing this awesome presentation. So welcome. And you were just provided a little introduction to FIMC. And I'm going to turn it over to Cody in a minute. But your opening code is COMPASS. And we just have a financial disclosure today to ensure that we can provide you with CEUs. So the product name that you're going to be learning about today alongside some screen reader instruction is the Wayfinder curriculum, and it is sold by IT Vision. And the Wayfinder curriculum is sold by IT Vision and is presented for informational purposes as an instructional option designed to enhance learning for students developing screen reader skills. This product is a for-profit educational resource. The use of this product has not been endorsed by the Florida Instructional Materials Center for the Visually Impaired. Decisions regarding the selection of instructional tools, methods, and goals for individual students should be made by the student's IEP team based on assessed educational needs and professional judgment. And your objectives for today will be define 3 pillars of teaching internet navigation with a screen reader, identify 6 common web element types relevant to screen reader instruction, explain the 3 questions that screen reader users ask when landing on an unfamiliar site. And again, your opening code is COMPASS, and there will be further information about obtaining credits at the end of the webinar. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it on over to Cody.
All right. Thanks, Andrea, and welcome everybody. If you don't know me, I'm going to do a very quick introduction, and then we're going to get started into a little bit of a discussion. And with that discussion, feel free to enter your answers in the chat. I have it open on my side, and I should be able to read it, so feel free to use that. Be prepared to answer, okay? Before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about me, if you don't know me already. I'm a TVI, practicing TVI and AT instructor. I started at the Maryland School for the Blind as a technology instructor and now work for a local school system part-time and then run IT Vision part-time as well. You're going to learn a little bit about IT Vision today and what we do if you don't already know. But we are going to start with a discussion. The discussion is going to be centered around a question. And that question is, how long do you think it would take for you to start screen reader instruction with a new student before they can log into their computer, open an internet browser, and log in to one of your school applications, right? For your district or your agency, it might be Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom. How long, how many sessions, or you can think of us as how many months or years or weeks, right, would it take for you to be able to teach that student so they can do that independently? All right. How long? Feel free to start putting this in the chat as I give some caveats. The caveats are, we're going to make this the simplest example possible. So we're assuming no additional disabilities. All right. We're also assuming that you're giving them weekly instructional sessions. So this is a consistent, it's not like once a month, it's like every week. And then the final piece is that, oh, there was one more caveat, but I forget what it is, right? But at least those 2 caveats. Oh, the final piece is that quality instruction. Like, you know what you're doing, everything is good, right? That's our caveats. How long, right? I see Andrea says 1 school year, 1 semester to 1 year, right? What else do we got? What do you think? How long do you think it would take for you to do weekly instruction with a new screen reader user before they can log into their computer, open an internet browser, log into a school application and do something, right? We got 5 sessions, 1 month, right? Keep putting those in the chat. I'm going to keep reading them. But I like this question. This is a new question that I've started to ask TVIs from around the country. 2 to 3 months, maybe a semester, depending on the child, right? And this is a question that I just started thinking about, but it brings me back to a story of a student and an IEP team that I was working with a couple of years ago. And this IEP team, typically when we get called in to like a private case, there's a TVI already with the student, right? And then there's a student that needs additional instruction or needs some consultation to make sure that they're learning how to use a screen reader. And I started with this team. The TVI was like, okay, I want them to be able to, and pretty much what I just said, log into their computer, open an internet browser, use Schoology, right? And I said, okay, cool. We're going to do that. And we started that instruction, right? So I'm consulting with the TVI. I'm doing a little bit of instruction. The TVI is doing a little bit of instruction. And after a couple of months, the TVI says to me, we might have started in December, and in like March or April, she's like, oh, I just feel like we're not moving very fast, right? And it made me realize now, especially retrospectively, that our expectations have to change a little bit, right? Lots of answers here, and I've been asking this question to a lot of TVIs across the country the past couple of weeks. Last week we were in Georgia, asked it to a bunch of people there, and the answers I get are vastly different, right? The shortest I've heard is a week, right? But on here, like just to look, right? We have 1 month, we have 5 sessions, we have a year, we have a semester. It's interesting how we don't really have a clear answer on this as a field, right? But I'm going to tell you what I told my colleague, the one that I was working with on that other IEP team, that after doing this specific job, right? I'm a little unique as a TVI in that this is like a thing that I specialize in. Not very many TVIs have that experience, right? But after doing this specific job, teaching screen readers to different types of students for 10 years, I will tell you that the expectation for an academic student, weekly sessions, and quality instruction should be 2 to 3 school years before they can do that independently. 2 to 3 school years. Now, that's interesting because I think that's longer than what most people would expect, right? And I want to shift our thinking a little bit. Usually when we have AT instruction, when we think about, how do I get this student to use this piece of technology? We kind of think of it as, I'm going to pull them out from class. I'm going to do a couple of things, show them a couple of features, and then we're going to go back into class, right? And then the problem will be solved. And that's our expectation. And what happens is when that doesn't happen, we get really frustrated, right? Because we feel like I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And usually, even if you do everything right, the main thing that you're frustrated by is it's not happening fast enough. All right, we're going to hold off on that for a second. Let me give you an analogy. I had another TVI 2 weeks ago at a school district in Maryland ask me, similar question, how long will it take to get my student independent on Canvas, right? Never used a screen reader before. And the thing that I told her was, it's kind of like asking me, my student has never read Braille before, how long until they can read To Kill a Mockingbird, right? 2 to 3 school years is a pretty conservative estimate on that, right? 2 to 3 school years. If you started with a Braille reader and they've never read Braille, they don't know how to read, and they can read To Kill a Mockingbird in 2 to 3 years, you're doing a pretty good job, right? You're doing a pretty good job. Now, coming back to our AT instruction, a lot of times when we think about AT, let's draw that analogy to reading. We think about how can we teach this student to read this specific book? How do we teach our student how to use a screen reader with this specific website or this specific tool? And the reality is, if we think about that with reading, that sounds ridiculous, right? If you have a student that's never learned Braille and you ask them, how long will it take to get them to learn To Kill a Mockingbird? And then let's start with chapter 1 and let's just memorize all of the words of To Kill a Mockingbird, right? You might get them to read To Kill a Mockingbird faster than 2 to 3 years, but are they going to know how to read is the question. The answer is no. They're not going to know how to read. They're going to know how to read To Kill a Mockingbird, quote unquote, read To Kill a Mockingbird. They're not going to know how to read. And so with this discussion, I want you guys to think about The difference between what I'm going to be showing you today and what traditional screen reader instruction looks like is the difference between learning to read. Today we're going to learn to read, right? We're going to start to in an hour and a half, versus what you usually see is learning to memorize a specific book. And those are two very different things, right? That's why we call it computer literacy, because it is very much like literacy, and what our expectations are going to be. Okay? So let's just think about that as we get into our program and our product. Okay? I'm just going to follow up with the chat here. I think it depends on how much reinforcement the student receives and how many people around the student know how to do it. 5 sessions if in a state school where other students can reinforce and versus mainstream where no one else knows how to do it. Absolutely, that has an effect. Absolutely. So if a student is at a school for the blind and everybody around them is using a screen reader, it probably will happen a little bit quicker. But the one caveat I'll say is I've worked in both instances, and I would be very shocked at a school for the blind if a student took 5 sessions and knew how to read, meaning knew how to navigate a specific tool independently without any prompts to the point where they feel successful and can learn another piece of content. That's going to take more than a year, right? 5 sessions, if you're saying I can get a student to access Canvas in 5 sessions, absolutely. But it's different than I'm going to teach a student how to use Canvas so that they can use Canvas to learn something else. It's going to take a long time, regardless of the setting. However, absolutely, it will take less time if you're at a school where everybody's using the same thing, right? Great point. All right. So what I want to start with today is what we're doing is this is meant to be an interactive webinar, right? You're not going to listen to me the entire time without being on your computer, number one. And number two, we know that using this knowledge on a webinar is really tough because it's tough that right now it's a Wednesday morning. On Friday morning, you're gonna have no idea what we talked about. And that's completely fine. That's how professional development works. We want to give you something to take with you so that then on Friday morning, you say, oh gosh, what did we learn about in that webinar? And you have something to go back to in addition to the recording, right? So to do that, we're going to give you a 60-day trial link of our Wayfinder curriculum so that we will be so that you have something, number one, to use today, and number two, to go back to on Friday morning when you don't remember what we went over, right? And so Andrea just placed that training link in the chat. Go ahead and click on it. And if you are looking at your Zoom screen, when you click on that link, you're going to get to a page that looks like this. And it says create your temporary training account. You're going to put your full name, your email address, and your password. Now, in addition to that, what I want to tell you is that this training link expires tomorrow, and there's 50 participants on it. Okay? There are not 50 participants here. So what I want to tell you is copy that link, and if you have a colleague that is trying to do screen reader instruction, feel free to send it to them. They just need to register by tomorrow, okay? This is not something that we want to like hoard. We want people to be using our curriculum, so please feel free to send it out. The only thing is just make sure you register first, all right? So go ahead and do that. You're going to put full name, email address, password, register. When you register, you should end up at a screen that looks very similar to this. If you're using a screen reader, the title of this page will be Home. And the buttons below should say Navigate to Course Library, Navigate to History, Navigate to Skills. If you have any problems with that, please put them in the chat. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to get registered. All right, and keep registering. I'm going to start talking a little bit about what this is, okay? What is the IT learning portal? What is Wayfinder, right? And to tell you this, I'm going to tell you a little bit of our history with IT Vision. IT Vision, we've done screen reader curriculum for about 4 years now. One of the things that we've known that we've done really well is video content, right? We know that giving you a 4-minute video to share in a lesson lifts the burden of the explanation off of your shoulders, right? It gives you one of those caveats, right? We can make sure that you get your student, we assist you in giving quality instruction because you don't have to look up the vocabulary words, look up the explanation. You can rely on the video, pause and play the video while you're teaching, so that your student, you don't have to necessarily come up with that explanation. So we know we've done that well. But what we have not done well until now is including our student in that process, including our student in a successful screen reader experience from the very start. To explain this, I want you to think about some of the barriers that you've had teaching screen readers in the past, right? One of the barriers might be, I don't know how to use a screen reader. That's completely common and very valid. I don't know how to use a screen reader is a barrier, right? I want you to put some other barriers in the chat as I keep talking. What are some barriers that you've had to screen reader instruction? One of the other barriers, I'm just going to give another one. Where do I take data, right? There's not a very comprehensive assessment in the world of screen reader instruction that we can kind of go back to and say, okay, I know a scope and sequence. I know where I'm going. I know what skills my student has and does not have, right? What are some other barriers that you have when you're teaching this? Yeah, resources for myself as the instructor, access to programs with licenses, and they take time to get approved, right? That's for sure a big barrier, right? Anything with technology, you're waiting for something to get approved. Absolutely. Students are unfamiliar with the keyboard layout. Yes. Yep. If your student doesn't know how to know the layout of the keyboard, it's going to be really hard to do screen reader instruction. And then the other piece is every computer's keyboard is a little tiny bit different, isn't it? Which does not make it easy. Absolutely. What are some other barriers? What else do we have? Lack of student computers. That would be a barrier for sure. Absolutely. Can't learn how to use a computer if we don't have one. Data collection to show the need for instruction. Yes, absolutely. Or that they're ready, right? And that's the question. When is your student ready for screen reader instruction is a really good question. It's a really good question. Keep putting those barriers in the chat. I'm sitting here watching it go. But the idea here is that we've created the portal to eliminate those barriers, right? One of the time, yeah, I see time in here. How should we dedicate that time? Absolutely. If we have time, I have a thought on that, but I'm going to keep rolling with our regular spiel. The idea here is it's one of the biggest barriers I think that we encounter as TVIs is that no matter how much we prepare, doesn't it kind of feel like there's just a lot of things that get in the way, especially on the internet, right? You think about you're starting a new screen reader user with JAWS, and you go out onto the internet, you go out onto whatever, Canvas or Google Classroom, and there's a pop-up that pops up, and then you have to teach the student how to get rid of the pop-up, right? And then, something happens, the student presses a key, and now you're at the bottom of the page, and you don't know how to get back up to the top. Big one is like if you're a Schoology user, you end up in the left sidebar and you can't get back to the main content, right? There's just like lots of things that happen that if you're trying to do an instructional lesson, it's almost like that objective kind of goes to the wayside because you're just spending your time and effort trying to be on the same page with the student, trying to get out of all of the pop-ups and get in the same place and all that good stuff, right? And so Wayfinder, the point of Wayfinder is to create a software product that makes the first couple of sessions super, super, super easy. And we do this with what we call our screen reader safety net. And our screen reader safety net is a set of features that make it so easy to use with a screen reader that the first couple of sessions that you're going to do with your student is going to feel more successful. I'm going to show you that now. All right. Perfect. Just want to make sure I'm still sharing my screen. Now, there's two sides of the Wayfinder curriculum. You guys all have the instructor side, and then we also have the student side that I just switched to. Notice how they look almost exactly the same. That's on purpose. So that if your student logs in, you know exactly what they should be looking at, right? Now, caveat, you guys have just an instructor account, okay? But a lot of what I'm going to show you today, some of it involves a connection between the student and the teacher account, but a lot of it will also be done, can also be done just with the teacher account. And I'll show you some of those today. The first thing that we've included as part of our screen reader safety net is that this portal can be accessed by only using 4 keys: the down arrow key, the up arrow key, enter, and escape. If your student knows those 4 keys, they can access the entire portal. For example, I'm going to turn on NVDA today. This works the same with JAWS or ChromeVox.
IT Vision, Google Chrome window, IT Vision, focused on page heading. Home, clickable main landmark, home heading level 1.
The first thing is that you'll notice that every page that we're on, it starts at the page title. That's not regular for the internet, right? You think about going to Google Classroom, it's not necessarily on the page title, right? It could be up at the top, it could be in the middle. Every page that you land on is going to be the page title. And the screen reader will say focused on page heading, right? That's specific to our portal. If I want to pick up where I just left off, I can just press the down arrow key.
Visited link, continue basic internet navigation. NVDA course. Progress, 32. Module C, name and type.
And so I've heard, okay, the last page I was on was in the course Basic Internet Navigation with NVDA. I know the module I'm in. All I did was press the down arrow key. I can now press enter.
Main landmark listening practice, names and types together, heading level 1. Focus.
And now I'm on the last page that this student was on, okay? Now I'm just thinking, just realized.
Speech mode off.
I'm going to do one thing because I realized I'm in the wrong account, which doesn't really affect any of you guys, but will affect what I'm about to do next. Perfect. That is the right account. Same idea. So I'm on my home screen again, but let me switch back to my student edition.
Speech mode talk. Visited link, continue screen reader basics. NVDA course. Progress, 17.
So this is my student edition, same idea. I press the down arrow key, and this particular student is in a different course with NVDA. He can press enter.
Main landmark when you get lost, heading level 1.
And he's now in the curriculum, all right? But here's the idea.
Speech mode off.
That's great, but how do you make sure that you get on the same page with your student? And where do you start? All right, so I'm going to show you our course catalog. For this, you can follow along with me if you'd like, right? You don't necessarily have to, but you can if you want. On your curriculum, you can go down to Course Library. And this is where you're going to choose the topic that you want to teach, right? Now, of course, we're all teaching screen readers. That's why we're here. But specifically, what do you want to do with a screen reader? Are you just starting out and are worried about, for example, that keyboard layout, right? Are you trying to access Canvas or Schoology? Are you trying to complete assignments like in a Google Doc? Are you trying to connect a Braille display, right? This is where we can answer those questions. Before we do anything, the first question is, what screen reader are you using? Like I said, I'm using NVDA today, but your choices in Wayfinder are NVDA, JAWS, or ChromeVox, okay? I know I'm using NVDA today, but I'm going to try JAWS. And notice how when I select my screen reader, all of our courses are now for JAWS. If I select ChromeVox, all of our courses are for ChromeVox, all right? Today I'm going to choose JAWS, and let's say I'm just starting with a new JAWS student. The first place to start is Screen Reader Basics. Now, remember, you guys have this curriculum for 60 days. So that's December 15th. So if you're trying to teach a student how to use a screen reader, you could totally, and they're just beginning, you could totally start with screen reader basics. So I'm going to start there. When you click on it, you're going to get your course homepage. All right. That's going to tell you all of the things like what device should you be teaching on if you're using JAWS, for example. What level is this? This is a beginner course. How long should it take? And then as you scroll down, you'll see the pages, right? So we'll see the topics, Module A, navigating the portal, right? So your student and you are going to learn how to navigate the portal. Remember I said down arrow key, up arrow key, enter, escape. That's like the first lesson, right? You're going to learn about modifier keys. Where are Alt? Where's Control? Where's Shift, right? For the person that said student doesn't know the layout of the keyboard, that's where you're going to learn it, modifier keys. You're going to learn how to open and close programs and switch program focus. And then, of course, set up the screen reader. Make sure you know how to turn it on and off. Make sure you know how to adjust the speech rate and why that's important. All those like beginning skills, right? Just getting acclimated to the screen reader. And you'll notice that each module is broken up by warm-up, instruction, and sometimes assessment, right? And so if you open that warm-up, you can see the very first page, overview, module overview, right? And then the second page is welcome to the portal, right? And so let's say I want to start on that video, welcome to the portal. Okay, that works. Sounds good. But you might be wondering, how do I get my student to the same spot that I am, right? Remember, my student, Kai, that's his name, is all the way over here in a different course with a different screen reader. He is not on the same page as I am, right? How do I get him there? Well, could you imagine trying to get Kai to the same page that I'm at without, in the same way that I just did it, right? Going to the home page, going to course library, choosing the screen reader, choosing the course, choosing the page, like that would take the entire session. So what we've done, another screen reader safety net feature, is we made this feature called Make Active Page. And what Make Active Page does is it pulls your student from this page that he's on to the page that I'm currently on. So what you need to do is click on Make Active Page, click on Kai K, and say, yes, make active page for sure. When you jump back to Kai, look at that. He's now pulled to the same course, to the same screen reader, to the same page as I am, right? So that's one of our screen reader safety net features. Now Kai's on this page, that's cool, whatever, right? Let's say he gets lost. Sorry about that. Let's say he gets lost, right? I was just in a lesson with a student, and this exactly what I'm about to say happened with this student. He got some fast fingers, right? So I'm like, hey, can you press the down arrow key? And he went like this. And then he's like, I don't know where I am, right? If that happens in our portal, you press escape. Oh.
Blank.
There we go.
Focused on page heading. Welcome to the portal.
You press escape, and it brings you back to the page title so that you always know where you are, okay? That's another safety net feature. The final feature that I'm going to show you before we actually start learning how to use a screen reader is
speech mode off.
One of the people in the chat, one of you guys said, I need a place where I can have my own resources, right? I need a place where I can look if I have a question. And if you notice on your instructor edition, as well as on mine, you got these tabs on the side. We have summary, lesson plan, and skills. What I want to look at first is the summary tab. This is where, for example, one of the barriers might be, I don't know how to use a screen reader. If that's you, go ahead and open that summary tab. This summary tab explains exactly what we will be teaching in this module. You have a paragraph description. You have a video. You have a vocabulary table, so that if you're sitting there and saying, I don't know what forms mode is, it's in your vocabulary table, right? You got a definition, you have some examples, you have some misconceptions. You also have your key concepts. What are specifically the concepts that we are teaching in this module? And yes, everybody's favorite, we have our key commands, right? So if you're the type of teacher as is everybody, that has cheat sheets all over the place when you're teaching. Until December 15th, you can put those cheat sheets aside, because when you're teaching, you can come right here to the instructor summary and you're only going to see the key commands for the module you're currently teaching. So that means that you're not looking through pages and pages and pages of key commands. The ones that you're teaching right now are right here in the instructor summary. Okay, so there is all of your resources. And then finally, for now, I'm going to go over to lesson plan, right? Andrea said, yes, built lesson plans, absolutely. That's where you're going to find it, in the lesson plan tab. All of the question that is answered in the lesson plan tab is, how do I teach this skill? If summary was, how do I do the skill? Lesson plan is, how do I teach it? Of course, at the top, we have our objectives, our instructional objectives. If you have an administrator that is wondering, like, what does this type of instruction look like? Here are some instructional objectives that you can show them, right? In this particular module, the very beginning one, students will be able to move forward and backward using arrow key navigation. That's what I was just doing, right? And then below that, we have our method, and that's the main strategy that we're using to teach this particular skill or concept, okay? You got a paragraph description, and you have a video. And finally, in the lesson plan tab, you have an outline of all of the pages in this module, with the page name that you can click on if you want to go there, the description, and the teacher tips. Teacher tips meaning things that you should think about as an instructor, right? And so that's our lesson plan. So it's kind of the ability for you to give you as much information as you need in order to jump around to make sure that your student you're teaching concepts that your student needs to know, right? For example, if I'm on this page and I'm looking through and I say navigating videos, oh, my student already knows how to do that because we've done it a couple of times. Well, that means that you can look at the lesson plan and you can say, oh, I'm just going to go to the next page and I'm going to pull my student there, right, with make active page. And so now we don't have to worry about navigating videos. My student is automatically pulled to the page that I need. You can do that with the lesson plan tab. Yes, I know there's one more tab. We're going to talk about it later. All right, skills, because that's really nice and exciting. So now, right, we are going to actually learn how to use a screen reader, and that's going to be our next half hour. So the first half hour, we're talking about instruction. We're getting you kind of oriented to the curriculum. This next half hour, we are actually going to learn how to do a skill. And if you're thinking, I don't know how to use a screen reader, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, you're good. If you're thinking, I don't have a screen reader on my computer right now, you're good, right? And I'm going to show you why. All you need is the curriculum, which you all have, right? It's in that link. And you need a computer, which you all have because you're on Zoom, right? So if you have those two things, then you're good. You're going to be able to follow along, okay? Now, I want you all to follow along with me. I'm going to do this a couple of times, okay, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if you need me to repeat it again, please ask. Please put it in the chat, okay? But I'm going to do it like 3 times. From wherever you are in the curriculum, it does not matter. I want you to go back to the home page. And to go back to the home page, you're going to click on your little arrow at the top. We call this our website navigation menu. When you pull that down, you might see home, course library, skills, and history. And I want you to click on the home page. From the home page, we're going to go to course library, right? Back to course library. Now, click on whatever screen reader you want to learn today. Today, it's not the skill I'm going to teach you does not matter. They're the same between all 3, but feel free, choose your screen reader, NVDA, JAWS, or ChromeVox. I have NVDA on, so I'm going to stick with NVDA. It is okay if you choose a different screen reader than I do. And then we're going to start with basic internet navigation. Basic internet navigation. So I want you to get to the spot that I'm at right now. I'm going to do it again. All right. Go back a couple of pages. Here I am. First, click that little arrow, website navigation menu, go home. You might see a quicker way to do this, and that's okay. We're taking another step. We're back at our home screen. Next step, go down to course library. Next step is choose your screen reader. It does not matter which one you choose. This time I'm going to choose ChromeVox. Just because. And then scroll down to basic internet navigation. One more time. All right. From wherever you were, website navigation, home, on the home screen, course library, choose your screen reader, does not matter, and then basic internet navigation. Anybody need me to do it again? Put it in the chat. All right, and I see no chat, means that we think we're good. Even if you're not, you're like, oh no, I was trying to get to the chat. Put it in there, I'm watching it, okay. And we're gonna take a little breather here before we continue. Basic internet navigation is, when we talked about learning to read, this is the course that is going to teach you and your student how to read the internet, how to understand how the internet works. All right, and that's what we're gonna be learning today. And we're gonna have a little discussion with our first video. And then we're gonna learn our first concept, our first skill when we use the internet. All right. And yes, you're going to have a chance to practice this skill today in our webinar. All right. So if you're ready to go, you should have a blue button that says begin course. Notice how mine says continue course. It's just because I've been in this course before. But go ahead and click on begin course. You should get to a page, the first page, which looks like this, your browser tools. If anybody is not in the same place as I am, please let me know in the chat if you need help getting here. All right. Cool. So I'm going to have our screen reader read our summary, our overview. All right. What is this module going to be teaching? But before I do that, let's say I got to this module and I say your browser tools and I kind of read the module. I'm like, I don't really know what we're doing. Where should I go? The instructor summary, right? That's you see how there's, if you do have vision, right? You see there's a little red arrow that points over to the instructor summary tab. And it says, don't forget your resources, because we want you to open that drawer, open that instructor summary and review this module before you start teaching. Right? That's what it's there for. It's to make sure that you understand what we are doing before we start doing it. All right. Today, you guys are the students. I'm the teacher. There's no need for you to do that because I'm teaching you. But when you do this on Friday or next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and you start, for example, screen reader basics, first thing you should do is come to instructor summary. All right. I'm just going to scroll through. Let's just kind of get a vibe for what we are doing. Right? In this course, we're going to be introducing you to the simplified IT learning portal on the real internet, using carefully constructed practices that gradually increase in complexity. Okay? The module has two essential tools. We're going to learn the address bar and the bookmarks bar. Okay? And that's where I'm going to pause it for now. Okay? So we're learning two things: address bar and bookmarks bar. If you don't know what those are, scroll down to vocabulary, look at that. Your first couple of, we have internet browser, just in case you don't know what an internet browser is or your student doesn't. And then we have address bar and bookmarks bar. You can feel free to read those two if you want. All right. But if you're an instructor and you're 10 minutes before your lesson and you're just trying to get a sense of what you're about to do, you can see how this would be very helpful. As you scroll down, there's some key concepts that I promise I'm about to teach you, but you don't necessarily have to read right now. And you can see what key commands we're going to be learning today, right? Control L, Alt plus D to navigate to the address bar, Alt plus Shift plus B to navigate to the bookmarks bar. There's your key commands. All right. Let's turn on our screen reader and listen to what our student will be listening to.
Speech mode talk. Focused on page heading. Your browser tools.
I didn't know where I was, so I pressed the escape key and it jumped me to the page title. That's all I did. And then again, just down arrow key. So you can see how a new screen reader user would be able to get to this interface pretty easy. Escape, down arrow key, up arrow key.
Heading Level 2 Module A, Overview.
All right, so we know we are at a Module A overview. Let's hear what it says.
You've already built confidence with your screen reader, and now it's time to start exploring the Internet. Every day, we rely on websites for essential tasks, but when websites are all different and constantly changing, it's hard to know what to do when. In this first module, we'll start this journey by learning about how to use your internet browser, and the tools your browser has to help you, especially when you get lost. Let's get visited link begin you, especially when you...
I had fast fingers myself. Let's get started, it says.
Visited link begin module.
And you can press enter on begin module.
Welcome heading level 1. Focused on page heading. Welcome.
And notice that I'm on the page heading, right? I'm on the heading level 1. All I have to do is press down arrow key.
Type, video. Heading level 2 directions. Watch the welcome video below to learn about your internet navigation journey and what you'll accomplish in this course.
So you can start to see that even though you guys don't have a student edition, you definitely can log into your account as the teacher, as the instructor, and those screen reader safety net features are all still here, right? Down arrow key, up arrow key, enter escape. You can press escape to go up to the page heading. So that then your student can then be involved in that instruction. You can pass your laptop over to your student and they can practice navigating and get some success, right? We're going to watch this video and it's going to lead to a discussion. So just be prepared to be in the chat. You do not need to be playing the video on your side. I will be playing the video for everyone, all right? So I'm just going to press down arrow key.
Button play.
Sounds good. I'm going to press enter.
Pause. Enter full screen.
Video title: Welcome to Basic Internet Navigation. Welcome to Basic Internet Navigation. By now, you've been using your screen reader for all kinds of things. You've learned how to navigate this portal, maybe even how to write and edit text in documents, and hopefully, more than anything, you've started to feel a little bit more at home behind the keyboard. This course, well, it's where we start to unlock the web. Think about it. How often does a typical adult need to go online every day? Whether ordering a pizza, watching a TV show, checking your bank balance, or even applying for a job, you are using the internet, right? And in this course, you're going to begin that internet journey. But learning how to use the internet with a screen reader is a big task, isn't it? There are so many web pages out there, and they're all different. Not only that, they can change over time. So where do we begin? Well, we're going to think about learning internet navigation in 3 stages. Stage 1 is vocabulary. We'll learn how to recognize different types of elements on a web page. Links, buttons, edit fields, headings. You may have heard of some of these before, but we're going to go deeper. What are they? And more importantly, what do they do? And we'll talk about whether an element is clickable or not clickable. That one's really important. Once you can identify those element types, we'll start to build your toolbox. That happens in stage 2, navigation methods. In this stage, you'll learn different ways that you can move through a web page. Each method you learn will help you move faster and smarter without missing important info. But we're not done, because in stage 3,
Pause button. Play.
So I'm gonna pause the video here. This is what I do with my students just to make sure we're engaged. Remember, we got 2 stages. If I was with a student and I was talking about it, what is stage 1, right? Since it's a webinar, I'm gonna give it to you. Stage one is vocabulary, right? We're learning the types of elements that we're going to see on a web page. You've probably heard of some of them, right? What are they? Headings, links, buttons. We're going to learn all of that, right? Stage two is what? Our methods of navigation, the skills, the techniques that we are going to use in order to interact with those elements, right? Let's hear about stage three.
Pause.
We'll put it all together by learning some navigation sequences. Navigation sequences are real workflows on the internet, like how to log in, how to search for something online, or how to find the ingredients for a recipe. The questions you'll ask yourself in this stage are, which tools should I use and when? And guess what? That's how real users tackle real websites. It might sound like a lot, but to help you wrap your head around all of this, I want you to think about navigating the internet with a screen reader, kind of like another topic you're really familiar with. What's another topic in which...
Play.
Here's where I ask a question, okay? So remember, listen, I'm going to ask you guys to answer this question. Here we go.
Pause.
You learn a lot of vocabulary, you learn even more skills, and then you put everything together into a couple of routes or sequences.
Play.
All right, what do you guys think? What's another topic that we use this same idea? We learn our vocabulary, there we go. Then we put them together into skills, and then finally we put everything together into a route or a sequence. What does that remind you of? What topic? Something that we might be certified in.
From Lisa Kleiman to everyone.
Yes. Forgot my screen reader is going to say the chat
Speech
when it's
mode on demand.
So I'm going to turn it off. Absolutely. Lisa, O&M skills, right? And we got Tori says orientation and mobility. Absolutely, right? In many ways, at the beginning of this webinar, we talked about how our expectations in time should match literacy. But what does instruction look like? It definitely looks a lot like O&M. Tell me in the chat, why does that make sense? What are the parallels between screen reader, internet navigation, and orientation and mobility? As you do that, as you put that in the chat, let's think about it even some more, right? Stage one is vocabulary in O&M. What do we do in O&M? We learn our street names. We learn our intersection names. We learn the area that is around us, right? Our landmarks. Then we learn our skills. What are some skills? Constant contact, two-point touch, trailing, navigating, crossing all quiet intersections, crossing different types of traffic controlled intersections. Those are all skills that we put on our tool belt that we teach our students. And then what do? We put them all together into a sequence or a route. For us in screen reader land, that sequence is probably the thing that you ask on our Facebook groups. How do you navigate JAWS with Canvas? How do you navigate JAWS with STAR, right? How do you navigate NVDA with, I don't know, the APH Nemeth tutorial, right? Those are your sequences. Those are your routes. But the question is, in O&M, how crazy would it be to ask, how do you navigate from your house to school if the student doesn't know two-point touch, doesn't know how to trail, doesn't know how to cross all quiet intersections, right? Let me look at what you guys said. Yeah, both are navigation, right? You have to know where you are and where you are going, right? Absolutely, right? Both are navigation, absolutely. Looking for landmarks and clues, Andrea says. Yes, absolutely. If you're navigating from your home to school and you're in an O&M lesson, what are you talking about? What are your landmarks? How do you know where you are, right? Not only just where are you, but how do you know that, right? And usually the answer is because I know that landmark over there, right? And Danielle says paths to navigate, you don't start with crossing the street. Absolutely. We need to start from the beginning and learn maybe even human guide, right? I was with a cohort training group yesterday, and there was an O&M instructor that was like, we just need to start with human guide. Before we even give them a cane, we start with human guide. And I want you to think about all the way back at the beginning of the webinar, we talked about how long will it take? And if you say, it's going to take 5 weeks for a new student to navigate Canvas, what you are missing are those foundational skills. Sure, you can teach them this route, and in many ways, it's a lot lower stakes than O&M because, mistakes are not as costly. Mistakes in O&M are very costly, but it doesn't mean that the student will not get frustrated. And it doesn't mean that the student will not, at the end of those 5 weeks, have a poor relationship with JAWS or have a poor relationship with NVDA. To fix that, we're going to start at the very, very, very beginning. We're just starting with our foundational skills, and that's what we're doing today. The question or the thing that I want you all to think about is orientation and mobility, right? It's not if something goes wrong, it's when something goes wrong, not wrong, but not as planned, and what do we do about it, right? If you take your student out as an O&M instructor and something doesn't go as planned, you don't say, oh my gosh, this is so hard to learn. You kind of just expect it, right? That's what O&M is. You go out, you're out in the real world, things don't go as planned. We know that. What do you do afterwards? You debrief, you talk about it, you problem solve, you talk about what you might do different next time. So when you're doing this type of instruction, right, even with our portal, even with all these barriers removed, remember that this is like O&M, right? It's not like teaching Braille in this way, right? It's not like you're going to learn one contraction and then you're going to test for data and see if you can move on. It's going to be nice and, the progression is going to be nice and neat. That's not sometimes Braille is not like that. So let me back up on that. But more so, my point is when you learn a skill, more often than not, even if you've been doing this for 10 years, trust me, things are going to go wrong. And the best AT instructors, just like the best O&M instructors, expect something's going to go wrong and debrief afterwards. All right. If something goes wrong, don't think it's because you're a poor AT instructor, because something goes wrong with every AT instructor. All right. Yeah, I love the debrief concept. Tori says it helped my student and I feel like a team. Absolutely. And it allowed an adult to model problem-solving strategies. 100%, right? So if something goes wrong, you can talk about, hey, what happened here? I'm going to redo what you did. What should I do next, right? Or you can say, just like Tori said, in this situation, what I'm thinking about is blah, 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 whatever it is, so that your student can hear that modeling of problem solving. Absolutely. Just for time, I'm going to end the video here, right? You can see it's not super long, but I want to make sure we get on to our I stopped talking. What I'm thinking about is orientation and mobility. Oops. What I want to make sure that I stop talking and so that you guys can learn our next concept. What I want to show you at the below each page is we have some discussion questions, right? So then when you're watching this with your student, you can kind of on your side, take a look at the discussion questions. You kind of know where to stop your student, what to ask them, or what I was just doing with a student in the last hour was we watched a video and then I'm like, all right, where are your discussion questions? And he'd go down to the discussion questions and say, oh, I know the answer to that one. Give me the answer. If you're following along with me, follow along with me. Go on to the next page. The page should say, what is an internet browser? If you know what an internet, I'm going to assume we all know generally what an internet browser is. So we're going to skip this video. If you don't know what an internet browser is, all it is Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, right? And in this video, we're making sure that our students know that that is a program on our computer. It's not just a whole computer. And we're making sure that they know that when they're on the internet, they're connecting to other places, right? That's what the internet is. We're connecting computers together. And so that's the concepts in this video. For time, we're going to skip this section. I want to get to something that's like really applicable that you can use. So you're going to go on to the next page. And this page is going to be called the address bar. Again, you don't need to play the video on your side, but if you're following along, you're in a great place because we're going to be using the next page together. So we're going to quick look at the address bar, and I'm going to ask you some questions at the end. Video title, the address bar. Have you ever felt lost on a website? Maybe you clicked a few links, ended up deep in a page and thought, wait, how do I get out of here? Well, that's a pretty common experience for new screen reader users, but that's where the address bar comes in. The address bar is the home base of your internet browser. It's kind of like the starting line for every trip you take online. If you want to go somewhere new or get back on track, it's always where you begin. For example, let's say I want to go to the IT Learning Portal. All I need to do is jump to the address bar, type my website, in this case it.vision, and then press enter, and I'm there. And here's what makes the address bar so powerful. You can get to it from anywhere on the page. It doesn't matter if you're halfway through a long article or buried in a confusing menu. The moment you need to reset, you can use one key command and head straight to your address bar. So what's the command, right? Well, actually, there are two. You can either press Control+L or you can press Alt+D. Both will move your focus to the address bar, and both work in most internet browsers. Now you might be wondering, why are there two commands for the same thing? Well, that's a great question. Let me tell you a quick story. Back in the day, there was this browser called Internet Explorer. It was made by Microsoft all the way back in 1995. Now in that browser, in order to reach the address bar, the command was Alt+D. Then in 2008, Google released Chrome, and they decided to use Control+L to get to the address bar instead. Eventually, Internet Explorer was replaced by Microsoft Edge, but by then, both Microsoft and Google realized something. People were switching between browsers, and they were bringing their habits with them. So to keep all of our screen reader users happy, they made both commands work with both browsers. Now, whether you're an old Internet Explorer fan or a Chrome user from way back when, you've got options. Let's try it out. I'm in my browser and I want to get to the IT Learning Portal, so I'll press Control+L. Now remember, hold and press, right? I'll hold that Control key and then press the L key and let go. Let me do it.
New tab Google Chrome Kodi left paren, Kodi-I.T right paren, region, toolbar, address and search bar, edit, search Google or type a URL, Control+LA.
Okay, it said where I was, and then it said address and search bar, edit. That's the signal that I'm in my address bar. Now I can type my destination, right? IT.vision, and then I can press enter.
Vision, IA.vision selected.
And I'm at the portal. Now let me try the other one. I'll go back a page and try Alt+D. Again, hold and press. Hold that Alt key, press D, and let go.
New tab Google Chrome Kodi left paren, Kodi-I.T right paren, region, toolbar, address and search bar, edit, search Google or type a URL.
Same thing. Works perfectly, doesn't it? So here's your challenge. Try both commands, Control+L and Alt+D. Listen to how your screen reader responds, and then you pick the one that feels most comfortable to you and stick with it. Once you got it, it'll be your secret weapon. Whenever you feel lost or you just want to go somewhere new, you don't have to wander around that page looking for your home base. You can just do that one key command and you'll be ready to start your new journey. I'll see you in the next video.
All right, so there is your address bar. Now, my first question, which is going to be our discussion question, is what are the key commands you can use to jump to the address bar? Feel free to put them in the chat. What are the key commands that you can use to jump to the address bar? Yes, you got it. Alt+D, I see. And there's one more. Control+L, you got it. Now here's the bonus question. Where could you find that answer? Let's say you're the teacher, right? Your student was listening to the video, and let's say you were doing an IEP next to him, right? Happens all the time. You were like, oh shoot, I wasn't listening. Oh my gosh. Where would you be able to find it? Yes, and we see summary, absolutely. So if I open up that instructor summary and you scroll down to key commands, remember, Alt+D. How do you navigate to the address bar? There they are, Control+L, Alt+D. Where is the other place that you can find the answer? Well, right under each discussion question, take a look. It says show answer. You can click right there, and there are your two answers. If you are on the student edition,
That student edition does not have a show answer button. So the student has to pull it from their head. But by you having the answers both in your summary and on the show answer button, you can decide how much help should I give this student. Should I give them a hint? Or no, they should try to pull this from their head, depending on what student you're sitting in front of, right? All right, awesome. So that's our instruction. Let's try it. If you're following along with me, go on to the next page, and you should see practice, address bar, navigation. Now, at this point, before we do the activity, you might say, oh no, I don't know where you are, Cody. I'm somewhere else, and I don't know how to get to you. I'm going to show you one more feature, and that's the navigation menu, the course navigation menu. Right up at the arrow, it's right to the left of our arrow. You're going to click on that. These are all of your pages for the course, right? And the one that you're currently on is highlighted in blue. There's also a little I next to it. And if you're using a screen reader, it says current page. And right now we're in module A, the instruction section, in the page practice, address bar, navigation. That's the first way to find where we are. The second way, remember, is your lesson plan tab. That also has all of the pages. Scroll down again, the page you're on is highlighted in blue. And this one is not, you can see all the pages, right? You don't have to open and close things. So you can come down and right under the direct instruction title, we're in the second page, practice, address bar, navigation. So those are the two ways you can find where we are. Now let's have the screen reader read us our directions. All right. This is not a video page. This is like a real world practice page. Here we go.
Speech mode beeps.
Oh.
Speech mode talk. Type. Real world practice.
Okay, so this is a real world practice page. We're about to do something real.
Heading level 2 directions. Practice using both address bar commands to navigate to the IT portal. Try Control L first. Once you confirm that you are in the address bar, type in your web address, IA Vision, then press Enter. Finally, conduct the same process using the other key command, Alt-D. Decide which one you will use.
Okay, so there's our directions. What we're doing is we're going up to the address bar. We're going to type in our link. The link to get to the IT Learning Portal is right there on the page. It's EYET.vision. No .com, no .org, just IT.vision. All right. Then you're going to press enter, and then you're going to get back to the page that we're on. It's going to be, you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot. I'm going to show you right now. I promise you it's not as much as you think. You might be saying, but wait a minute, Cody, I don't have a screen reader on and you do. That is completely fine. These are actually browser commands, right? These are commands that work even if your screen reader is not on. The difference, of course, is that when I do it with my screen reader on, you're going to hear address and search bar edit, right? So it'll be more like the student's experience. But even if you don't have your screen reader on, it will do it. It just won't say anything, all right? So let me try it. I'm going to try Control plus L first. Here we go.
IT Vision, Google Chrome, Cody,
Listen
IT,
for.
Region, Toolbar, Address and Search Bar Edit. Press Tab, then Enter to ask it.
There it is. I heard it. Address and search bar edit. I know where I am, just like O&M. You know where you are. How do you know? Because I heard my landmark, address and search bar edit. Now I can type in my link, EYET.vision.
T unselected, IA, V, N unselected.
There it is. EYET.vision. I can press enter.
Vision, IT Vision, clickable main landmark home heading level 1.
And we're on the home page, right? I heard the heading level 1, home. Now, how do I get back to the same page? You might already see it. You press the down arrow key, and you're going to hear the last page that you were on, which should be the page we were just on, hopefully.
Visited link. Continue basic internet navigation. JAWS course. Progress, 32. Module A, your browser tools.
Sounds right, right? I can press enter.
Main landmark practice, address bar navigation heading level.
And I'm now back at the portal. Go ahead and try that on your own. Go ahead and try that on your own. You can try Alt plus D to go up there, or you can try Control plus L. Both will work. If you're on a Mac, anybody on a Mac, it's going to be Command L, okay? Command L. Obviously, JAWS, NVDA, and ChromeVox won't really apply to the Mac, but for this skill, if you just happen to be on a Mac, Command L instead of Control L. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. All right. Just to make sure I know how things are going, if you finished and you did it and everything is going good, put in the chat. Got it. Right? You can put in the chat, I got it, but this happened and I'm not sure why. And then you can also put in the chat which one you prefer. Do you like Alt plus D? Do you like Control plus L? I tend to be a Control plus L person myself. But the thing is that you have students that come from other TVIs, right? So I've had students come and say, and I ask them, how do you get to the
From
address
Soup
bar?
Laser to everyone.
Oops, my bad.
Speech mode on demand.
I have students that come and they say, oh, how do you get to the address bar? They say Alt plus D, and that's perfectly fine, right? If they know Alt plus D, use Alt plus D, right? Awesome. Sue says Alt plus D is the way for me. Love it. I like that. Tiffany, got it. Write a sticky note for Alt D and stuck it to my computer. I love it. Awesome. Prefer Alt plus D. I like Alt plus D. Absolutely. All right. Love it. It's totally fine to have a preference as a teacher. Just know that if a student comes with Control plus L, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Multiple ways. But I understand the preference. I like my Control plus L for sure. The good thing with this skill is, of course, it will apply to your screen reader instruction. But remember, this is a skill that can work with or without a screen reader. And so one of the really cool things that tends to happen when you learn screen readers is you start to learn these key commands. And so you can do them from anywhere, right? I will tell you, I never go up and click on the address bar anymore. I just do Control L, right? And of course you can go up and click on the address bar, nothing to say that. But like, let's say you want to show, let's say there's a 22-year-old new teacher and you're like, want to show your technology skills off real quick. You can just do a couple of key commands and kind of whip around the computer like you see the IT people doing, which is a good bonus if you're learning how to use a screen reader. Tend to learn all these commands. All right. Now that we've learned our skill for today, I'm going to show you two features that I think you guys are really going to like. The first feature, remember, we went over the summary tab. We went over the lesson plan tab. What in the world is this skills tab? And I'm not going to show you yet, but I am going to scroll down. You might have already seen it. Let's say I was teaching this student to my student Kai, right? And let's say he did that. He did the activity that you guys just did. Well, I can now take data on that. Look at this. Use address bar. Students will be able to access and use the address bar to navigate a website and return to the IT learning portal. That is one of our instructional objectives here in our lesson plan. Take a look. Students will be able to, there it is, right? That's our instructional objective. Our student just had the opportunity to show us that they can do our instructional objective. So let's take data on it. I'm going to select my student. And then we have 3 skills in this objective. Did they navigate to the address bar? Did they type the website address? And did they know to activate it with enter? And so what I can do is score my student Kai on those 3 skills. Did he navigate to the address bar? I'm going to give him a 3. Absolutely. He knew how to do it. He mastered it. He didn't hesitate. He didn't self-correct. Did he type the web address? And this happens a lot. I'm going to say hesitated, because sometimes the student types in the web address wrong. They press enter. And what I'm looking for is, do they realize that they typed it in wrong, right? Either they get to the wrong spot, right? Or maybe, like, let's say if you go up to the top, I'm going to open a new tab here, and I type in it.visio, and I forget the vision. Do they know they're on the search results page here? And can they self-correct? Can they Control L and do it again? it.vision, right? That's really important. That's like an O&M problem solving moment, right? And so in this instance, oh, I lost my data. So 3, I'm going to say hesitated. And then did he press enter? Yes, he did. He mastered that. And I'm going to save that to my student's record. All right, to Kai's record. Now, what is that skills tab? Well, these are our data tables. That is all of the data tables for this module. That means that, yes, the ones that are relevant to this page, we take it out of the skills tab and we put it right on the page. But let's say they do something else. Let's say in this page, they go to the bookmarks bar or whatever, and you want to take data on something else. Those data tables, all of them for this module, are in our skills tab. And at the very bottom, you see our scoring guide. 3 means mastered. They did it. They had no hesitations. They didn't need to self-correct. They just did it, right? 2 is hesitated. They either hesitated a little bit, they weren't quite sure, or they self-corrected, right? They did it wrong. They realized they did it wrong, and then they did it right again. All right, that's 2. If you have to talk, meaning if you have to give them a hint, if you have to say, remember, control plus, that's a prompt, right? So that means that if they do it after that prompt, they get a 1. And then 0 is even with a prompt, they were not able to do it, right? That's attempted. And so earlier in the webinar, somebody said in the chat, one of the barriers is when to know when to move forward, right? Or something along those lines, right? How do I know what direction we're even going? Well, this starts to give you some idea as to how your student is doing, whether or not you should move forward, or whether or not you should remediate. Next natural question is, where can I find that data, right? Well, if you go up to the top, you click on your website navigation feature, you click on skills, this is where your student skills will lie. I have one student, his name is Kai. On the sidebar, I'm going to go to internet navigation. And you see this is my demo lesson. So you can see right here, 10:15, that's the data that I just gave him. All right. Caveat is, remember, you guys have an instructor edition, but no student edition. So you won't be able to take data in the same way that I just showed you without a full license. But what you can do is you can look at the scope and sequence of the skills that are coming up, right? You can know, and you can take data on the side, right? You can copy those objectives down. So if you're doing module A, oops, there we go. Module A, you can look at your instructional objectives in the skills tab and say, all right, I'm going to make a data sheet that kind of mirrors this. That's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. And then take data on your own so that you have an idea framework for the best direction to move. Okay. And the last feature I'm going to show you all, and this is what I will challenge to you as you end this webinar, right? What should you do next? What should you try next? And that is the next page. So if you follow along with me, the next page, you'll see practice site 1. What is a practice site? I'm going to have my screen reader read this, mainly because if you don't know me, I'm low vision. And without zooming in, I can't really read that text. So I'm going to have my screen reader read it.
Speech mode beeps.
Oh.
Speech mode talk.
There we go. I don't know where I am, so I'm going to press escape.
Focused on page heading. Practice site 1.
To be honest, and this is one of the things that I think I surprise people with, this portal, even though I know how to use a screen reader, it's so much easier for me to use, especially in a webinar. I'm like, whew, thank goodness. Because just to kind of let you into the world of my mind, right? Even though I know how to use a screen reader, using a screen reader on a webinar, it's kind of difficult. There's a lot going on. Anyway, I'm going to press down arrow key.
Type, real world practice, heading level 2 directions. Welcome to your first practice site.
Here's what a practice site is. Ready?
Remember, every practice site was made by us at IT and all of the information is fake, so don't worry about messing anything up. Choose one of the practice sites below. Complete the task at the top of the site, then return to the IT Learning portal using the address bar. If you get really stuck, you can use the key command Alt left arrow to come back to the portal. But only use it in emergencies. Good luck.
So that's a practice site.
Speech mode off.
What it is we're going to go, instead of just jumping onto the real internet, instead of going to Canvas and practicing the address bar, we are going to give you a bridge, a practice site that doesn't have this safety net. You can't pull your student using Make Active Page. You can't press escape and go back to the title. You can still navigate up and down arrow key, but it takes away some of those safety net features without going onto the big bad real world of the internet, right? So it's kind of like a little scaffolded bridge, right? It's like the next step. So once we've done it on the IT Learning Portal, okay, cool. Let's choose a practice site. Every practice site that we have has 3 options. We have an education and learning practice site. In this module, it's a course catalog, completely fake. We have a cooking and food practice site. In this module, it's a cookie recipe, lots of fun. And we always have a careers practice site. In this module, it's a job board. What we hear a lot from TVIs is when we talk about time, right? That was one of the barriers. How do we incorporate screen reader instruction into what we're already trying to do? Well, this is one of the answers, is that when you use these practice sites, you will also be teaching sections of the ECC, depending on which practice site you choose. These practice sites start very simple. The one that I'm about to show you is very simple. You can just press the up and down arrow key, navigate the whole thing, complete the task. As you get more and more complex, they become much more game-like and much more complicated on the ECC side. Here, we're looking at a course catalog, right? And we're going to say, like, what class are you interested in? Who teaches it, right? Nice and easy stuff. But as you get farther and farther and farther into the course, we have practice sites that pretend you're a manager and you've received a time off request. You need to figure out how to approve that time off request, right? Or in the food and cooking section, you're on a grocery store website. You're ordering online groceries. You have a total, and you have to go to the coupon section to clip coupons to see how much you save. So it's a really good way to incorporate those ECC skills. I'm just going to down arrow key. I don't have my speech on, but press enter. Yeah. Thanks, Tori. Yeah, Tori says, what an amazing real life practice opportunity. Absolutely. And it gives our students the idea that we're not just teaching technology for technology's sake. Hopefully, they start to get some incidental learning saying, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing with the computer, right? I'm going to be ordering groceries online. At one day, I'm going to be a manager at a company and I'm going to need to approve time off requests. It's not necessarily something, when we tell students that, they're like, yeah, whatever, right? But when they're actually doing it, it jogs their imagination to say, oh, I could do this. I can see myself at a company approving time off requests. I can see myself as an adult ordering groceries and clipping coupons and all the stuff we need to do to save money, right? So that's the idea of a practice site, right? We're taking the skills that we just learned, applying it to a real life example. Every practice site gives you a task to do. Like I said, this one's very simple because it's module A. Let's hear what this one says.
Speech mode talk, banner landmark graphic education and learning category logo.
I'm just pressing down arrow key, right? Nice and simple.
This is an IT Vision practice site. None of the information on this page is real or should be considered factual. This page is only for practicing screen reader navigation skills.
We say that on every site just to make sure everybody knows.
Heading level 2 directions.
And let's hear what you're supposed to do.
Browse through the course catalog and find a course that interests you. Once you've found a course you'd like to take, figure out who teaches that course. If you're brave, you might even click on the link to register. Once you're done, practice returning to the portal using the address bar. If you get really stuck, you can use the key command Alt left arrow to go back a page, but only use that if you get stuck.
So at this point, my student has read the directions. I asked them, what do you need to do? Just to make sure we get our listening comprehension down, right? In this case, they're looking for a course they want to take. They're figuring out who teaches it. So this means that, and we do this with every practice site. Every practice site, we give our students, this is something that you need to find, and this is what you should bring back to me. So that then this becomes an independent activity. If we just say, oh, look around this practice site, right? Our student has no aim, right? And so if we say you're finding a site, you're finding who teaches it, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. When I come back, you should have those 2 pieces of information for me. It makes the structure of the lesson a lot more meaningful, right? All we need to do on this page is press the up and down arrow key. They find their site, they go back to the IT learning portal. So we're the idea
Your
behind
internet connection
these
is
the idea behind these are that when students hear heading level 2, heading level 3, right? Then they are going to start to understand, oh, headings break up the page. They understand what those things do. I'm going to show you one more thing with our practice sites.
Heading Level 3 Creative Arts. Heading Level 4 Digital Photography.
And then you can start to have conversations. Why is that a heading level 2, and then a heading level 3, and then a heading level 4? What do you think that means?
Instructor, Ms. Rodriguez. Learn the basics of digital photography, including composition, lighting, and photo editing. Students will explore different styles and techniques while building a portfolio of their work. Visited link register for this course.
And then the question is, what will happen if you press enter on a link? It's not part of this module, but you can. And if you do, let's see what happens.
Link destination, screen reader practice. You've clicked on a link. Use Alt left arrow to return to the previous page.
It brings the student to the next page. So that then in the next module,
Speech mode off.
in the next module, when we start to talk about links and headings and what they do and what they are for, they've already had some experience. Oh, right. A link brought me to another page and I had to use Alt left arrow to go back, right? A button did something on the current page, right? And so they start to incidentally learn those definitions, right? So with that, those are our practice sites. And as you're thinking about what do I do on Friday, the next time you have a lesson with your student that needs to learn how to use a screen reader, you kind of have 2 options. The first one is you can go back to your home screen. You can go to course library, or actually you can use course library on their website navigation, and you can start with screen reader basics, right? For those students that need to learn the keyboard layout, need to learn how to open and close the screen reader, like just at the very beginning. Or if you're like, my student kind of knows those things, right? You can go into skills to figure that out as well. You can go to internet navigation and do the lesson that we just did with your student. Even if they haven't been through screen reader basics, basic internet navigation, and actually all of the courses on the IT learning portal are meant so that you can start that course with a brand new screen reader user. All right, so those are your 2 options. With that, just a couple of reminders. You have the curriculum using the account that you're using right now until December 15th, right? So that's 60 days from today. Another reminder is, remember that link that we shared? You can send that to other colleagues. Just let them know you got to register today. Once they register, they're good. They have it until December 15th. But we want this to be dispersed, especially in Florida, right? To make sure that you guys have the tools, especially at a time when budgets are being cut, right? Thank you, Andrea. Andrea just put that training link again in the chat. So please feel free to send that on to your colleagues. Remind them it expires tomorrow, so they need to do it today. Okay. And then finally, a couple of comments in the chat that I saw, but I want to go back to. Andrea said, the more practice basic browser or computer commands, the more automatic it will be for you. Absolutely. So the more that you practice those Control-L, Alt+D, even when you're not teaching a screen reader, the easier it will be when you have a student like that. I absolutely agree. Another thing that Andrea set up at the top, knowing the element and what they typically look like or represent helps develop problem-solving skills so that they can navigate any website and problem solve their way around things that are presented in an atypical way, right? And that's what we're doing here. The more experience your student has, the more successful experience your student has, the more that they're going to get used to what Andrea said, those atypical structures, right? the more that they're going to get used to being on an unfamiliar website and figuring out what to do next. Okay. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about is all the way up at the top. We said lack of accessibility was a barrier. Absolutely. One of the things that we're really committed to at IT is being a good advocate to companies for accessibility, meaning, and we're kind of in a good position to do that. I'm an AT instructor. We have a software engineer on staff. When we reach out to a company, we can not only tell them the problem, hey, your website does not navigate by heading, but we can also say, and here's the code that will help you fix it. If you have any specific websites or tools or things that you're like, I'm not sure if this is accessible, please email us. And I'm going to put our email address in the chat. It's info@itvision.com. .org. .org. I'm laughing because Andrea and I just were talking about this. Our email addresses used to be .com and now they're .org. Silly. So I just put that in the chat. If you have a website or a tool that you're like, I'm not sure if this is accessible, email us and we may be able to do some advocacy on your behalf. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Andrea. I really appreciate you guys listening and following along with me today. If you have any questions whatsoever throughout the school year, please email us at that email address down below. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys' attention. Thank you so much.
Wow, Cody, that was awesome. You can tell all the work that went into into creating this and the why. Like it provides that safe space, like that safety net you were talking about. Gosh, and just to build the students' confidence and the teachers' confidence. And it's like a recipe book for the teachers. So those built-in lesson plans, the summary, and gosh, monitoring the students' progress, that data collection it's chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So kiss your
Always
brain.
improving. We're always improving. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's great. And yeah, like he said, share that around that link. I think the more people get experience with it too, and they show what a benefit it is to them as a teacher and for their students, and that their students are making progress, your district may be more likely to purchase that. What is the cost of your program?
So there's a couple of ways that we do cost for a full license. That means a year-long license with a student edition. Our asking price is $550 per year per student. Now, again, that's our asking price. So if you're coming to us and saying our district wants to purchase 10, right, we have some ability to negotiate with you on a customized deal, right? And then the other piece is that we would love to, if your district is interested in this, but you're looking at that $550 price and we're like, I'm not really sure. On our website, there is an ability to schedule what we call an administrator demo. And what we want you to do is schedule that demo, invite your administrator. And in that call, we will start to figure out what is the best pricing for your district. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you for that information. So your closing code today, everyone, is curriculum. Thanks for your time and attention and for participating in the chat. That makes presenting a webinar much more fun and for the presenters. So thank you for doing that. On the screen, we have the evaluations QR code and the in-service credit QR code. And I also popped those links in the chat. Your closing code again is curriculum.
All right.
And I'm going to stop recording.
If I could say one more thing that I forgot to say is that if you guys want more information or if you're not ready for that full license, we also have cohorts that happen every semester. And if you want more information on that, I'm going to give you a link in the chat as well, okay, to sign up for our email list. All right?
Super. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just bear with me because I didn't have that link.
Recording.